Connected.
Participants, good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight for our first online webinar. My name is Anel Stambekova and I am Senior Manager for Admissions and Recruiting at the Graduate School of Business. Please keep in mind that this webinar will be available by email and our website. So we're all fortunate to have our good friend and colleague from FUCOA, Assistant Dean for Admissions, Annelie Richter. She will give you valuable recommendations on how to apply and prepare strong recommendation to MBA programs. We also have our colleagues Areli Magawina and Dana Ilibetova here with us. You can see Annelie's bio here, but I want to add that Annelies is the one who advises us how to develop and consistently improve the admissions process at the Graduate School of Business during last 6 years. And she's also a co-chair of our admissions committees. So Annelie will talk about who we are and walk you through the application package to our degree programs. Though the application slightly differs for 3 programs, but the recommendations hold true for all programs. So let Annelie speak and make sure you listen carefully to all valuable information you are going to get tonight. Please, Annelie, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much and welcome to the session. Delighted to be here with you. I've been visiting Nazarbayev University this week, and as always, it's a delightful experience. And I'm excited to be able to connect with you tonight as well. I wanted to start off by saying that our goal for doing this is to be transparent about our admissions process so that you know what each element in the application tells us and how we use it. So our role in admissions is to identify potential in you and to create a rich learning environment for you. Our goal is to get to know who you are beyond the numbers and your resume. And while it's important that you have a strong record of achievement and accomplishment, it is also important to us to know that you will be a contributing member of Nazarbayev University. It is our community, after all, that will create the environment in which you participate. So I'm going to give you a very quick overview of the components of the application. We're going to talk about the academic profile, which helps us understand the rigor, how you can handle the rigor of the program. We will also talk about the work experience to see where you are in your career and how will you contribute to the classroom. We'll talk about recommendations that are an important part of your application. And then those difficult essays to write, what we like to see in them and how they help us. And finally, a little bit about the interviews that you will be invited to attend once all your information is with us. And finally, we'll tell you something about our community as well. So let me start with the academic profile. When the admissions committee is reviewing your academic readiness, we want to know if you will be successful in our classrooms. We need to be confident that you will be able to handle the rigor of the curriculum. So 2 easy points for us to look at are your ALEC score, the test that you will take here at Nazarbayev University, as well as the GPA from any studies that you have undertaken in the past. Those 2 together with your full transcript review will help us get a sense for your academic profile. We will look at your undergraduate record primarily. We will look for majors, what the trends in your transcript are. We'll see if your performance reflects a consistent work ethic. We'll look for places where you've challenged yourself by taking difficult classes. And we need you to understand that we welcome applicants from all academic backgrounds: liberal arts, engineering, accounting, economics, the humanities. All our applicants are several years removed from their undergraduate experience, for the most part, at the time they apply for the business school. So the GPA is usually not something that you can work on or improve at that point because you've already graduated. So what can you do if you feel your GPA may be a little lower than you would like it to be? You may be able to explain part of the record. Let's say you had something difficult happen in your life during a semester when maybe you didn't perform so well. Help us understand that by including that in one of your essays. If you feel that maybe you were just young and you weren't focused the way you would like to be, let us know. And one of the things that you can do is provide us any master's or graduate level work that you may have done, and that can help us understand a little bit more about your academic background. And if you feel like the quantitative side of your background is softer than you would like it to be, then you can take courses and tell us what courses you're taking, where you're taking them, how you're doing in them. And the way to do that is to send a transcript to us from those courses that you have completed together with grades. So that is something that you can do now to supplement the transcript that at this point, it is what it is, and that is absolutely fine. So that's a quick summary about the pure academics. The other piece that falls into the academic profile is English proficiency. And the IELTS test is what we require to help us understand a little bit better your command of the English language. If you have studied at an institution that teaches the entire curriculum in English, or if you have lived or worked for many years in a country where the native language is English, you may request a waiver through your application for the English IELTS test requirement. And I'm going to stop there in terms of the academic profile. I'll move into work experience. If you have started one of our applications, you'll see that I'm talking through the different sections that you'll be asked to fill out. If you have not looked at one of our applications yet, once you do, maybe the order of things and the information that I'm providing will make a little more sense. I will also say that the information that I'm sharing here today, much of it is available on the website, and the excellent staff here at Nazarbayev University are certainly available to help you walk through the application. We're going to talk about the resume, your work experience. And again, that's an area where we see applicants from all the different backgrounds, and there's really no defined path that may lead you to an MBA. Diversity of experience is a good thing because learning happens from your peers. We favor seeing people who have work experience from diverse backgrounds. And though the quality of experience is not necessarily tied to the years of experience, at the end of the day, we really want to be able to see if you're at the right point in your career to entertain an MBA. There are two separate sections within the work experience within the application that talk about work experience. One is within the application itself, where you are asked about different positions you've held, reasons for leaving those positions, and you also have the opportunity to share valuable experience, your valuable experience through your resume. Within that application portion, please fill that in, don't overlook it. because there you have the opportunity to tell us um, a little more about the responsibilities than you may do on your resume. The second area is your resume, your CV. It should be understandable to someone outside of your industry or function. So let's say you're from a very technical background and you use many acronyms in your resume. That may be difficult for me to understand. So try to make it such that a person from any background can understand the words that you use, the acronym that you use in your resume. It is a very important part of your application. Don't pull out a resume from 5 years ago and attach it to your application. Review it. Make certain you have accounted for any gaps in your work experience. Make sure the years within your resume match the years that you put in your application. Be detailed, be careful, and check your work. So the resume is an opportunity for you to provide a little more information than you're able to do within the application. You may want to consider it an additional essay. Have somebody review it for you, and make sure it tells your story. You're not here to tell your story when we read your application. Make sure your materials do it for you, please. Then I would like to move on to, let's do recommendations next. Again, this is an area where you have an opportunity to provide a third-party perspective of your work, what you're like as a teammate, what you're like as an employee, maybe what you're like as a manager. It provides an opportunity to get a reflection of everything we've seen in your application so that the letters of recommendation that you provide us with, or that your recommenders provide us with within the application, tell the same story that you tell in your application. You can accomplish that by very carefully considering whom you select as your recommenders. Think about people who know you well in a daily work environment. Sometimes it may be desirable, or you may think it's desirable to get the highest possible title to provide a recommendation for you. So let's say that you are working with the CEO, but you've only worked once with a CEO, and that CEO cannot say much about how you work with candidates, how you work in your daily environment. So think carefully about who provides those recommendations for you. Think about people who, number one, are willing to spend the time with you. Okay, I'm going to adjust the volume for a moment. I'm sorry, I see messages saying that you need to hear me better. So allow me to try to do that. Give me one moment while we test. Does that work better? Can somebody let me know? Let's see. I'm going to keep talking and see if that works better for you. Can you hear me better now? More or less is what I'm hearing. But it's better. Okay. Keep giving us feedback and we'll work on it, okay? Let's see here. How's that? Is that better? Okay. Thank you to Xenia who said the volume is okay. Appreciate it. So I will continue on the recommendations. Um, think about people who know how you work on a team, who are able to talk about your interpersonal skills, who are able to talk about your organizational skills. What we're looking for are team players and collaborators. We're looking for people who are organized, who have strong work ethic, um, who are contributors to the environment in which they work. And only someone who works with you on a daily basis and is willing to invest time in providing a recommendation for you will be able to represent you the best. Spend time with the people that you select as your recommenders. Make certain that they know the elements of your background that is helpful for them to talk about. And make sure you thank them for investing in you. They are an important part of your application. I would recommend that you select professional recommendations. A current immediate supervisor is an excellent person to select, provided you're willing to let them know that you're applying for a master's or an MBA degree. If you're not, that is perfectly understandable that you don't wish to select anybody from your current manager. But then try to get a colleague from your current organization, someone who knows you professionally. Personal recommendations are not the best. Neither are professors if you graduated many, many years ago from your undergraduate institution. They won't know you in a professional environment, and nor will they know how you behave today. So I would say the final outcome of the letter of recommendation is something that is out of your control. So do spend the time with your recommender to guide them in how to best help you. So let's move to the essays. Essays are an opportunity for you to really let us know who you are. They are incredibly valuable to the members of the Nazarbayev community. This is a very collaborative program, and because of this, we want to make sure that the students in the class will be supportive teammates for each other. So this is an opportunity for you to introduce yourself, tell us your story, and help us understand the puzzle that is your background. You will be asked to complete 2 essays. One of them is, in a sense, work-related. It asks what your background is and how you believe you will contribute to your classmates and to your cohort. So think carefully about what your past holds and what you want your future to be, and think about how you tie that together with what you can bring to your classmates. Our professors are excellent, and we are proud of what they provide in a classroom setting. But it is important for you to understand that as a student, you are also responsible for what your classmates will learn. Our professors may end up being half of what you learn, because we are building a class where your cohort will be a very large part of your learning experience. So as we select candidates, we're looking at what you can contribute to that cohort. And each of you will have something specific to contribute. Help us understand what distinguishes you from others, and help us understand where your passion is, where you feel you will add value. That is very important in terms of providing that collaborative and team-oriented community that we want to create here at Nazarbayev University. Another question we have is a little bit different. It asks you to tell us 3 things about you that people may not know. What we're asking you to do is dig a little deeper into yourself and say, what are those special things that I contribute that are not related to my professional or academic experience? What is it about me that makes me a desirable person? Or maybe a person who's difficult to work with, but you've figured out how to help others get over that. Tell us something that others may not know about you. It can be something fun. This is a place where you can be creative and help us learn a little bit about you that is not included elsewhere in your application. This is where you are able to express why you are unique. So be specific. Don't just state, as an example, don't just state that you love cookies. That doesn't tell us much about you. But maybe you can tell us, what's your favorite cookie and why is that? Because maybe as a child you learn how to bake that in a traditional family environment that meant a lot to you. That translates into being that person that likes to contribute to a community feeling. So you go from telling us that you love cookies to really telling us something about yourself and how you will engage in the classroom and outside of the classroom. That's where that creative, fun opportunity can arise. And you have full control over your essays. Make sure you ask somebody to read them. There is nothing wrong with that. Ask somebody to provide feedback on your essays, both in terms of grammar and in terms of content, to make sure that it's clear, that your message comes across the way you want it to. What you should not do is have somebody else write your essays. They should be yours. They should be telling us who you are. And most important of all, please don't tell us what you think we want to hear. Tell us what you want us to know about you, because that is what we want to hear. That covers essays. Spend time on them. So let's move on to the interview. When you engage with us in an interview, we want to see, so far we've seen papers on you. We've seen your transcript, we've seen test scores, we've seen your essays, we've seen recommendation. Everything is flat. It's paper, it's on a screen. When we get to see you as a three-dimensional person, that's when we really understand what you have to contribute and how you will engage at Nazarbayev University. Will others want to be on your team? Are you a good fit for our program? Are we a good fit for you? The interview goes both ways. You are deciding, is this the right feel for you? Is this the right fit? Do you feel comfortable and at ease during the interview? And on the other hand, we're looking at you saying, will you be somebody that takes ownership of your experience at NU and that takes ownership of improving the people around you? It should be a two-way conversation, but it's also a professional discussion. So you should prepare for your interview here as you would for a job interview. Know your own story. We will have your resume. Help us understand the steps that you took. Know your reasons for moving from one job to another. Have your story ready so that when asked, you have a good answer. Know what your strengths are. Know what your weaknesses may be. Tell us why you're interested in the program. As you would for a job interview, you would probably, I would hope, research the company that you are getting ready to interview with. Do the same for Nazarbayev University. Spend time on our website. If you have a chance, visit at an open house, attend an information session, engage with our students. There are many ways for you to learn about about Nazarbayev University. Before you engage in the interview, know us a little better and know what questions you want to ask about the experience of attending a master's program here. That will help it be a more productive conversation for you and for us. And finally, let's talk about meeting our communities. I alluded to that a little bit in terms of the steps that you can take to get to know us a little better. And that I mean in terms of coming to Nazarbayev University to visit when there's an open house. Get a chance to talk to our students, engage in our community so that you have a sense for what this is all about. There is a part of the application that references leadership and community involvement. It's small. There's not a whole lot of space to put information, but if you are a person who engages in your community, who has a leadership role in an organization outside of your work, if you are involved with volunteer activities, help us understand that, because that tells us that you are someone who will also be engaged in the Nazarbayev community. As a full-time student here, you will have opportunities to be part of organizations, and organizations that our students create and run. And we want you to be one of those leaders who moves those organizations forward. So I put those two together, the Meet Our Communities and the application piece that is leadership and community involvement, because together they help you understand what we're looking for and help us understand how you would fit in. So visit us if it fits in your schedule. If you're unable to schedule a campus visit, take time to get to know our communities in other ways. This webinar is one way, and a little bit later, Aralim will talk to us about other opportunities that you will have to engage and learn more about Nazarbayev University. So we're here to provide support and insight throughout your decision process to ensure that you're finding your fit, to answer more detailed questions you may have about the application. And so I hope I have covered many of your questions today. One question that I'm seeing, and I'll address that right now, is ALEX mandatory?
If they apply for scholarship.
If you apply for scholarship, then the ALEX test is mandatory. But it is a good idea to take regardless, because it does provide information about your quantitative readiness. And as you're preparing for that test, you are bringing yourself up to speed on material that you will need as you go through an MBA program. Or if after doing the ALEX you decide an MBA is not for you, you have still increased and improved your quantitative abilities, which will come in handy no matter what you do. There's also a question here about a GMAT score, and is there a GMAT score that's needed to gain a scholarship? We do not have cutoffs for any scores because we look at the overall process of all these pieces of your application that we've been through today. You're welcome to submit a GMAT if you have one. ALEX is another opportunity to provide that test score. I am going to hand it over to Aralim for a moment so that she can talk to us about opportunities to engage.
Thank you, Annalie, for doing this. Good evening, everybody. I'm Aralim, and let me go through our upcoming event here at Graduate School of Business. So our next webinar is scheduled for November 30th. We are going to talk about how to behave in an interview with admission committee. So the main aim of doing this event is to prepare you guys for the selection process here at Nazarbayev University. I'll be very happy if you can personally email me your recommendations or suggestions on the topics you are very interested in. In addition to online webinars like we are doing today, we do also business talk on a monthly basis where you can talk in person with our faculty members and visit our campus. Please go to our website on a regular basis and check the events. Well, I'm also very happy to announce that we are going to organize an open house session on November 16th at 6 p.m. here at Nazarbayev University. So you may also find more detailed information on our website as well. Thank you for your time, and now we can go to Q&A. You may chat us your questions you want to get the answers for, and we will try to give you very detailed answer. Thank you again. So I see the second question from Assalayim Yertayeva. What about professors who are helping to write the thesis? I think it relates to recommendation letters, right? So yeah, you can require your professor who is helping you, who is supervising your final thesis, and you may require the recommendation letter from that person.
Can you hear us well? Please type it here so that we know if you can hear us well. There is a question about scholarships in 2018 and 2019. So if you ask about full-time MBA program, so we need to inform you that starting from this year, we're sending our new cohorts to Duke for a 2-week residency. So even if you get a scholarship, you have to pay travel fees, but the number of scholarships will be known only after you submit your application, because we usually use leftovers around the university because MBA programs are not so well granted, I would say. Now I transfer the question about about CV. Just a second.
Thank you for asking for details about what to include on your resume. So the question is, should it be just work experience, or should I include certificates and courses as well? So depending on how much work experience you have, it is important to include that primarily in your CV. And you should not have a CV that is more than 2 pages long. So there's a little bit of decision making to make in terms of how to use the real estate on those 2 pages. Your education section could include certificates. I would not include courses on your CV, as we will have your transcripts, and thus we'll be able to get those from there. Think about your CV as a place to provide information that you may not have as much opportunity to highlight in other areas of your application. So your transcripts will have the full listing of courses as well as the grades that you may have obtained in those courses. Certificates are a little bit different. Some certificates are highly recognized and would be good to place on your CV. If you have taken company courses, if you have done certificates that may not be nationally or internationally known, you may simply wish to send those to us as additional information. But to take up space on your CV may be not using that area as efficiently as you could.
Let me answer Laura's question about official language waiver. Yes, if you studied in English-speaking university, you can ask for a waiver, and for that you need to ask your institution to send us your transcript.
Do they need one for executive MBA?
Aigerim's question about less than 1 year work experience. Yes, you can apply to MBA if you have less than 1 year work experience, but make sure that other components of your applications are very strong, because we do make exceptions if we very much like an applicant. Yes, GRE can replace GMAT, and since we don't have any minimum requirements for GRE, ALEX, or GMAT, you can provide it as well.
So another question that we have received is about.
Not yet there.
Okay.
Here, yes. Hmm?
Okay. So one question that I will answer that should be asked at some point is how to submit the recommendations. And I believe your recommender should be the one to provide those. They should not come from you. It is important to us that the recommendations come directly from your recommender, because otherwise it may leave some question as to authenticity. So when you prepare your recommender to provide the recommendation, please do also set the expectation that the recommendation should come from your recommender directly to Nazarbayev University.
I see Asalaim's question about ALEX. So yes, if you apply for some kind of scholarship, it's compulsory to take ALEX. We allow to take GRE or GMAT for international applicants who cannot come to Kazakhstan. So if you apply to MBA, we strongly advise you to take ALEX. Essays question here.
So should I write my essays in formal style or informal style? I would say write them professionally. Think about how you write your resume when you're going to submit that. It should be a professional representation. So think about formal clothing, business casual, and casual. Let's think that way when we think about our essays. So do they need to be formal to where they are written as a thesis? No, but business casual would be the right clothing to use for your essays. They are professional, but they have some character to them because we're trying to get to know you, but we want to get to know you professionally, not the way you would speak to your friends when you may be out for an evening of going to a restaurant. So I would compare it to the attire you would wear when you come for an interview is business casual or formal, and the same for your essays. Remember, they need to be well written, but they need to show your personality and your experience. I hope that helps answer that question. We want to get to know who you are through those essays. So feel free to insert some humor that helps us understand you. One question I would like to address is engagement in our community. What does that mean? So when you attend school full time, there are many, many opportunities to engage in the Nazarbayev University community, to have leadership positions in our organizations, to be an organizer of events. Those are all things that take time away from studies, but that add to the experience of what becomes the Nazarbayev University master's experience. So think about the time that you have to devote to studies versus time that you have to devote to being an active member of the community. It's important to be able to balance both to get the most out of your student experience.
I would like to just briefly return to recommendations. When you select your recommendations, make sure that your recommenders will spend some time on your recommendations and make sure that they do it during 10 days.
To submit in a timely manner.
Yes, to submit them in a timely manner. We are waiting for more questions. If you have any, we have 15 more minutes of our webinar, so feel free. And another remark I would like to make is that we are planning to open registration for all 3 programs in November. So follow the news on our website and feel free to email or call us, and you can visit us. And for executive MBA and also for full-time programs, we provide opportunity to sit in the class, to come and meet our students and ask questions on how they feel about the programs.
One thing you should do. Just to say those are the requirements for a program.
Early birds registration. Would you like to know something about early birds registration? Asalaim's question about deadlines for scholarship application. So I just want to advise you to apply as early as possible, but so that it doesn't affect the quality of your application. But when we start reviewing applications in the beginning, we get, let's say, more picky towards the end of review of applications. So the earlier you apply, the better. while we are waiting for more questions, I would also like to announce that we are improving our, like, we're expanding our geography, and now we're planning several trips. The upcoming events in Beijing and Korea. So if you have any interested applicants in these cities, please tell them that they can come to QS MBA events and meet us there face to face. There is a question, is it possible to apply both to MBA and Master of Finance programs? We recommend you to make your first choice. You have this chance, you have a chance to do it in your application form. If you still mulling over between two programs, just carefully review. Yes, review the requirements and come to us and ask our opinion, because you need to make sure that you really like the program and you really like what this program will give you. Because for Master of Finance, you need to have passion for finance. You need to realize that you will be working in financial organizations. It's going to be mostly quantitative work. When for MBA you have broader opportunities to choose between several areas, let's say. So if we as admissions committee see that your application better fit for one or the other program, we will always advise you that. So it will save you time to apply to both programs. Make your first choice, apply to only one, and indicate that you are interested in both. And then admissions committee will decide which program fits you better. Yes, there is Shulpan's question, how to choose more suitable program? Please give your opinion. Look at education, job direction, and career or desire.
If you are uncertain how your background and your goals fit best with a program, please do contact Anel or Ayrailim to allow them to work with you to determine the most suitable program. They have insight in terms of what the programs require, what the opportunities are post-program, and we'll be able to look at your background to put that together with the best program for you. And I'll also address the question of, is it okay to have a CV that's 2 pages in length, even though we strongly recommend 1 page? So I would say creating a resume, a CV, is a decision-making process. It's determining what are the most important highlights that you want to include that still sells who you are. So I can reference our Fuqua applications. We require 1 page, no matter how much work experience you have, and it is very, very difficult to accomplish that, but it can be done. But I would say if you have extensive work experience and feel that 2 pages are needed to describe your work experience, maybe you have ample community engagement as well and wish to include that on your resume, or you may have 2 or 3 degrees that you have taken. That will all take up space on a page, and we recognize that. So use your best discretion and be as conservative as you can while still providing enough information to sell yourself in your resume. The resume basically is the brochure about you. And one-page brochures are very common. So try to think of your resume as that way. It's your one-page seller of yourself. How would you highlight yourself? If you need 2 pages, fine, but I would try to focus on 1 page. We have a question around, is there an age limit for programs? No, the only limit is the one you put on yourself, and don't do it. There are no age limits on the programs.
By the way, if there's anyone interested in executive MBA and would like to ask questions in Russian, feel free to do it. Если здесь есть участники, которые интересуются программой Executive MBA и хотят задать вопросы на русском языке, пожалуйста, задавайте, потому что на Executive MBA мы предоставляем синхронный перевод, поэтому знание английского желательно, но не обязательно.
So I'll reference the question regarding what kind of font, small, large, medium, can I use in my CV? So my CV is in 12 font, Calibri 12 font. And the reason I do that is because it is large enough to read, but small enough to allow me to use the one-page real estate very efficiently. And the same goes for essays. We say, a 500-word essay. 500 words is 500 words. But if you're submitting something that's where you could play with margins, don't think about it that way. Think about truly providing the information that's required as opposed to how to game the requirements. So 14, yeah, that's fine. It's larger than maybe you need to be. I would say 10 to 12 point, depending on what font you use. But make sure it's easy to read. And you can have somebody look at it and say, is this easy to view? Can you scan through the page and get an idea of who I am? And if you read it in detail, is it easy to read or is it hard to follow? That should be your guide to, am I using the right font and am I using the right size of font? So there's a question about essays. Why is it 2 essays? It is 2 essays because we ask for very different things in each one, and we want to get 2 different perspectives of you. One essay in the MBA application asks, like I referenced earlier, tell us about your background, both work and educational, and how do you feel you will contribute to your classmates. That helps us understand what you feel your strengths are, what you feel is diverse about you, what you feel distinguishes you, and how you will add value to that cohort that wants to have you be part of the learning experience. The second question is more fun, less formal, less intense. It says, tell us 3 things about yourself that people don't know, or that maybe your work doesn't know, but your family does. Tell us 3 things about yourself that you think might be interesting for us to know. They can be about your likes or dislikes, your love for travel, your passion might be your family. Tell us something about you that helps us understand who you are before we meet you in an interview.
There is a question of Asalaim about is the diploma generally accredited on the international market? So we're in the process of getting accreditation now, and graduates successfully were placed to such companies like Microsoft, McKinsey, BCG. So they will move around their companies around the world. So I think this is the first step getting international recognition of our diploma. But there is no question about the reputation of Nazarbayev University in CIS countries, in Kazakhstan. So I think that I hope that all our graduates will be successful on any market. So thank you, dear participants, for your time. It was our first online webinar, and we really enjoyed this experience. And I want to thank Annalie for being with us. And let me move a microphone to her.
Thank you so very much for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure for me to be a part of this, and I look forward to continued engagement with Nazarbayev University. I will be traveling back to Fuqua tomorrow, and so was very, very excited to be able to join you tonight. So thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.